to screenshot the safety steps, save them to your device, and share with friends and family.
Without people like you, our efforts would fall flat. But when people like you give blood, someone in need gets a lifeline. Maybe someone just like you. We never get to choose when to need blood, but we can choose when to give. Find out how to become a donor at giveblood.ie. We count on you.
The Black Friday sale is now on at Harvey Norman. Get Black Friday discounts today across our huge range of sofas, dining furniture and homewares. The season for extra guests is here, and we have you covered. Shop sofa beds from only $299, extending oak dining tables from just $749. Savings across dining chairs with prices starting from as low as €59. Plus, get 50% off all Christmas trees and decorations. Don't wait, now's the time to buy. The Harvey Norman Black Friday sale, now on.
Heineken bringing you in-depth analysis this Saturday. You could win a UEFA Champions League trip for two just by grabbing a pint of Heineken in 100 pubs nationwide. Visit Heineken Ireland's Instagram to find your nearest participating pub. Over 18s only. Drink responsibly. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
Here at News Talk, we've got some exciting original podcasts. Here's a snippet from Show Me the Science with Professor Luke O'Neill, a weekly series that explains different topics through science.
It's hard to imagine when people begin digging up these bones. Can you imagine the shock and awe when fossil hunters dug up these massive bones of these creatures and wondered, what the hell are these? The Chinese get the credit, as they often do for things. They dug up the first dinosaur bones hundreds of years ago. Guess what the Chinese thought? They must have been the remnants of dragons. And in fact, one idea where the myth of dragons came from is these dinosaur bones must have been, dragons that died off and left their bones there. That was one idea the Chinese had anyway.
To hear the full podcast, go to newstalk.com, the Newstalk app powered by Go Loud, or wherever you get your podcasts. The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. You can WhatsApp us today, 087 9 180 180. The scores on the boards are that Ireland are leading Japan 17-10 at the break in the rugby, and it's Tottenham Hotspur 0, Manchester United 1 in the Premier League. Brian and Mbumo on the mark. And it is football we're going to talk about on the panel today. The beautiful game over the next hour with two former Republic of Ireland internationals. So Kevin KILBANE made over 110 appearances for the national team. He played in the Premier League for Everton, Sunderland, Wigan and Hull. And David Connolly scored 9 times for the boys in green, making 41 appearances. He also played in the Premier League for Wigan and Sunderland and was a striker for Feyenoord in the Netherlands, West Ham, Southampton, Leicester and many more clubs. Kevin and David, how's the form, guys?
Yeah, very good, John. Nice to see Kevin as well. Look, straight out of the shower, Kevin. I can tell something like that.
How do you know that? How do you know that? Dave, I've got my birthday today, so I'm kind of floating around the house since about 6 a.m. this morning over here, trying to get everything prepared. So it's a bit of a mad one.
Yeah, great. Good to see you. You look very well.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Dave.
Kevin, you're in Canada, to people who didn't know. So what is Canadian life like? What are you missing in Ireland, Kevin?
The Guinness and the rain, as the song goes, Dave, John, Well, yeah, that's no. You know yourself, John. I'd moved back home for 7 or 8 years before I moved over here to Canada. So I thought that's where my life was going to take me. I'd be in Ireland for the rest of my life. It just didn't work out like that. So I'm missing lots, actually. As time goes on, growing up, David and I had a different, environment around us growing up, but very much part of a huge Irish community. That's how it was for us. So you start to integrate more with Irish people over here as well. If anyone's got an Irish accent, there's a kid at school. His dad's from Dublin, and you start to get close to him, don't you? And you start to want to speak to the people that you know. So that's kind of how it is. But I do miss home, John. I do miss home a lot. Yeah.
So, Kevin, you got a Mayo background. David's got a Galway background. So it's Galway and Mayo generally don't talk, David Connolly, when it comes to Gaelic games. So it's obviously you guys, former teammates with Ireland. Did you ever cross paths when you were at Wigan and Sunderland? David, did you ever meet in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, we played against each other and crossed paths many times. Obviously, Kevin was like, I think he's mentioned, sort of born in England, but obviously you know, everything else was revolving around Ireland and playing for Ireland. So it was we were kind of very similar in that regard, and loved playing for Ireland. Like we'd go at any call up, like any play anywhere, do anything, whatever it took. You know, I won't talk for Kev, but he's very diligent. You know, we both had to work really. I don't want to talk for Kev, but we both had to work really hard at our games because the quality of the squad was so high. And I mean, for Kev, 100 caps is just an incredible achievement. And he had a great career, and we both loved go. We had a great group of lads. We had loads of fun, best days of your life, and. You know, sort of, we had one campaign, but probably should have had 3, I think that's fair to say. And sort of 10, 15 years of great times. So, yeah, look back very fondly. And there were so many good characters and good lads in that squad. There wasn't barely a bad word. You know, obviously we had the fallout in 2002, but I mean, that by and large, I mean, the lads were a great group of lads. There was no egos. There was doesn't matter where you're from. Everyone made you feel welcome, and they're just a cracking group of lads.
I think, John, as well, David and I kind of missed each other on the under-21s because Dave was ahead of me. Dave was obviously scoring lots of goals at Watford at the time, and he got into the Irish setup and started to do really well. So Dave was almost like one of the guys that I would have been looking towards that try to emulate what Dave's done when he first got into the side. And obviously, you know, we had Breeny, we had Lee Carsley, we had Robbie that emerged after it, and Damien and all these guys, Richard and Shea. You know, there was a nucleus of us all that were all probably, 76 to 79 born players, where we just excelled together, or to 1980, wherever it was. Over that 4 years, we produced such a calibre of player that we were all pushing each other then, John, and it was to be part of that setup. And, you know, our training sessions, Dave, were so intense, weren't they? You know, we were always pushing each other. Every single session was almost like an event when we were playing. So we got so much out of each other, I think, because of our attitude to the game.
Yeah, I was looking here because I was born in 78. You're about 77. And like when you think back to the time when you played football in the Premier League and Championship and abroad, guys, there seems to be a lot of nostalgia for that time. I mean, David, do you feel that the game was better back then? Are there things in the game that are kind of missed now, or is the game much better now? It's obviously very different.
I don't know. It's hard to. I think it's hard to say. I mean, you know, would I want to be around with VAR? I don't know. Probably. You know, it seems to have taken a little bit of the glory out of the game and the spontaneity. You know, when we used to train with Ireland, for example, we used to have a vote after every training session for the worst player. Nowadays, you probably wouldn't be allowed to do that, you know, because it would be, people might think you're being bullied. But let me tell you, I mean, it was just fantastic. But in those days, like, things were a lot different. We could meet up with Ireland and put on great performances because we had great players. But you could probably go out in Dublin for a couple of nights and maybe more, and you could probably do things that you wouldn't be able to do nowadays. Not necessarily anything illegal or anything like that, but just, you know, the lads being social, and that social side. I think I don't envy the lads nowadays because it feels like they can't sort of blow the nose without someone knowing about it, or there's a phone somewhere. Whereas in our day, there wasn't, and you know, there was no real social media. So if anything was, I don't know, if you had a bad game, you probably just wouldn't read the paper. Whereas nowadays, you know, if you miss a chance, you're the biggest loser. So, yeah, they're the differences, I guess, which I didn't necessarily miss about playing today. And I look back fondly that it was probably a little bit more innocent in you know, when we were playing. There was you know, that's what I would say.
Kevin, what would you say to that?
Yeah, you're asking, has the game changed? And I think the game's improved. I think Dave would probably agree on that, just in terms of technical ability, tactical awareness of all the players. I think coaching absolutely has improved, apart from goalkeeping. I don't think goalkeeping's improved. That's my opinion on that one. But I think overall the game has improved. But I know that it's an easy one to say, but I wouldn't change it. I genuinely don't think that. I think both David and I would have had an attitude where we would have absolutely succeeded in the modern game. There'd be no doubt about that in my mind. I think we both had something about us that would have got us through and would have got us over the line. But I watch a lot of the football, and I think the general thing that's thrown around is the game is quite boring now. It's the teams kind of line up the same. I think tactical setup, and it might be a little tweak here and there that wins and loses a game. The spontaneity that David mentioned there, I think that's absolutely gone from the game. I think the development of an individual player now doesn't seem to be there. I don't think we're able to produce that. We're not able to produce a player of a Maradona or a Robbie Keane, a Damien Duff. We're not, because everyone has to fit into a structure of a side. So players at 11, 12, 13 they're almost professional. They're learning about the fundamentals of being a professional football player instead of the enjoyment of the game, I feel. And I see, Dave's got a lot more intensive involvement in coaching that I would have had. But even in my short spell as a coach, I actually wasn't really enjoying a lot of the side of development and around the game. I didn't enjoy that side of it. So I think that, the game has improved immeasurably, and I think there's no doubt about that. Financial rewards are there for all the players at the very top, and even that's filtered down through the system now as well. Everyone's rewarded very well, but I wouldn't change anything for what we had and how we were allowed to develop and enjoy our lives, I think, to an extent.
Yeah, let's go through everything that we've kind of been witnessing over the last week, and we will be witnessing over the next week, because there's just so much going on at the moment. Maybe just reflect on the Champions League from during the week, David. Like, when I look at it, the top 12 in the league are all Premier League clubs, and then you have Paris Saint-Germain, the champions. You got Bayern Munich and Harry Kane going great guns. Inter, last season's finalists. And then you got Real Madrid and Barcelona. This is going to be tasty, I feel, for the rest of the competition.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit different to last season. You go back to Man City last season, they were sort of scrambling to qualify. So they've got off to a really good start. And obviously the Premier League teams are going to be very, very, very strong. And they were all, very good in midweek, continue on their form. So look, we all know they're going to be there or thereabouts again, all those sides. I mean, some good games. I thought Liverpool were excellent against Real Madrid. A great performance. I thought Man City were brilliant as well against Dortmund. Arsenal were very comfortable. So look at Tottenham as well, John. So, I mean, a very good week for the English teams. And, they go again a few days later. And, that's the challenge, like the Saturday, Tuesday, as Kevin will know. And then on top of that, you have the internationals. So all these lads will be playing, and then after all these games, they'll be going off to play internationally as well. So it's a packed schedule for these players, and that's why they're obviously the best. That's why they're getting so well paid, because they deserve it. Because they are non-stop every 2-3 days delivering at the very highest level. But I thought the Champions League midweek was really good, and I thought Liverpool probably. The best performance, I thought that was a really good performance, and they needed that, I think.
You're almost reversing to type, David, a bit, Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, look, he made all those changes. Kev will tell you this, when you make changes in a cup game, as Arne Slot did, I think, against Crystal Palace, he was in a real predicament because he had two big games coming up. I think the Villa one and the Real Madrid one. And as a manager, you're thinking longer, further ahead. Now, they lost 3-0. Everyone obviously was not happy because it was at home. But in the back of his head, he's thinking long-term, thinking, well, I need to, we've lost a lot. I need to turn things around. We got the Villa game. We've got the Real Madrid game. And, ultimately, he was under a lot of scrutiny. And he's backed it up with two really, really big wins, big performances. And they don't come much bigger than obviously Real Madrid. And Conor Bradley, I thought was excellent. All eyes would have been on him. So it's just a great performance. I'm sure Kev would have been part of teams as well, Kev, where the manager makes a lot of changes, thinking far ahead. You lose, the fans go bananas, but in the back of your mind, obviously as the manager, you're thinking, well, we've got two massive games coming up, and he's got to win. So that was the important thing.
I think, you know what, Dave, I think there's always a scrutiny on managers when, say, for FA Cup, for instance, and managers change players. But, even towards the back end of my career, when the squads were starting to get so much bigger, the players have to be played. Now, if you don't get a game in the FA Cup when you haven't necessarily been played in the league, where's your chance to go and impress the manager in a competitive game? So when all those changes are made, I know it's a chance for Liverpool to go and win. You're talking about that Palace game, to go and win a trophy. But those players have to be played, and the manager has an obligation to play those players at such a competitive level that if that one of those players in that dressing room is not being played and the manager just continues to play his full strength side, you're going knocking on the door because you need game time. So it takes away that for the manager when it's when the manager has that decision to make. Going to the Champions League, I mean, I don't know what you lads are thinking, but last year there was so much talk on the new format and how it went that I felt as though the top sides almost took it easy early, and it cost them. Obviously, City dropped out, and the sides weren't really performing in that first half. This year, it does seem a bit different to me, where they're familiar with the new format, and they think we've got to get our results earlier, get them on the board quickly, almost like the old format used to be. Get 3 wins and you're almost qualified, and then you can rest up a few players towards the back end. I think the big sides have realised that. Get the results on the board, and then maybe go in a bit of free will after Christmas into the knockout phase.
What did you make of the treatment of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kevin? I mean, most people will agree that the mural stuff was idiotic, but what about the booing? Is that fair game or is that harsh?
Yeah, a bit of booing's fair game. I honestly, look, David saying there about scrutiny on social media earlier on, that to me would be something that's really going to hurt somebody individually, not necessarily from what you're reading, but your family are all reading that. A bit of booing is, I mean, geez, I'd have been booed by my own fans often enough, John. So I think getting a boo here and there would never. I think it teaches you to grow up very quickly when you're getting abuse from the fans. I remember even back to my Preston days, playing down at Millwall, playing as a left winger, isolated on the left wing, getting abused for 90 minutes. So it helps you grow up very quickly when you're getting abused by opposition fans. And I tell you something, I don't think Trent Alexander-Arnold's booing at the weekend was worse than the Millwall fans that were abusing me when I was like 18 or something coming into the game. So, look, I think it's been going on since I was a kid watching football. You would have all experienced it, watching it and playing it, Dave, as well. It's just part of the game. It's just when it goes over the top and it becomes personal and, they start to get on, slaughter family members or slaughter things that's personal to you. That's when it becomes too much. But I honestly, a bit of booing, I don't see any reason to get too stressed about that sort of thing. I mean, I just wonder as well, Kev, like... do you think he would have any regrets, Trent Alexander-Arnold? Because, a move to Real Madrid is obviously is a big move. Dave, you know yourself, I always remember that move when you moved to Feyenoord as a kid, and it took everybody out of... Because the Dutch league was in a different light then. Feyenoord were obviously in a different light in terms of the size of the club that they were, Dave. And it was such a huge move for an Irish player in those days because you were linked with Premier League moves. I remember there was a host of clubs, and because you're on a free transfer, you took... one of the first Irish players, I probably feel, to take advantage of the Bosman ruling. And I don't know, maybe you're in a position more to answer that question than I would be, that you went on and, whatever you did for the rest of your career and the career that you had, but that was a huge move for you and a big decision that you had to make at a young age. He's a little bit more established, yes, but... I always remember that move, Dave. It sticks out to me because of how big it was for Irish football. And even as a young player, similar age, I'm a little bit older than you, but a similar age to you, Dave. And I remember like, wow, what a move that was for you and for Irish football, I think, in general. Well, I mean, I guess... for me, Feyenoord were a massive club. They're in the Champions League. The season I left, they won the UEFA Cup. I mean, so they were very, household names we know now, but we didn't really know then. But for Trent, I guess it's more he was at a huge club anyway. Was he worried about losing his position to Conor Bradley regardless, as if he stayed? I still think Trent Alexander-Arnold's got a lot to his game, but I just wonder where he goes back there, and he's not playing at Real Madrid. When I moved abroad, there were times I didn't play either, and he was thinking, should I leave, should I not leave? And in the end, you get back in the team, or I just wonder, he might look back. Obviously, he'll be well compensated for it, but as we all know, there's more to to life than that. And if you're, Dave, did you feel in any way isolated when you didn't necessarily get into the team early at Feyenoord? Was that a tough environment? No, I don't think so. I just think, that you're so eager to play that if you don't, as you know, it's tough to deal with. And I think no matter what age you are, you have to have that belief. So whether it's me, you, Trent Alexander-Arnold, he has to have that belief that I should be playing. Because if he doesn't,
you know, then you're just picking up your money. And for me, I wanted to play, so I had an argument with the manager because I wanted to play. I didn't want to, you know, just be there and not be involved after, you know, I think I scored in my debut. But anyway, the point being, I think for Trent, it'll only go on so long where you sit on the sidelines, you think, well, I could be playing at Liverpool, but maybe Conor Bradley was always earmarked, you know, to start. But I just wondered the other night, it was probably, he won't miss a boo, as Kevin says. He won't care about the odd boo here and there, but it's just what might have been. He could obviously be winning, you know, who knows, the Champions League again this year, or playing at Liverpool, and who knows how it's going to turn out of Real Madrid. He might not get in the team much this season. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Ireland 17, Japan 10, by the way, in the rugby. Jacob Stockdale is in the sin bin. Ireland, actually, as I speak, have just got another try. Ireland 22, Japan 10 at the moment. And it's Andrew Porter with the try. We're talking to Kevin Kilbane and David Connolly about the beautiful game of football. Manchester City, Liverpool tomorrow, an apt kind of segue into this, Kevin. Erling Haaland, I mean, you think he's great, and then he's producing what he's producing now. He's in beast mode. He's like a computer game.
Well, yeah, the team's been built solely around him now, John, hasn't it? That's what Pep Guardiola's done. There's last season, bit of a transitional period for them last year. And you see that light at the end of the tunnel a little bit now. That the team is set up. They're having less possession in games this season across the board. It suits Haaland every single time. Immediately, when they get the ball, they're passing forward quickly now. It's rather than have 2 or 3 passes before. Maybe they used to try and get De Bruyne on the ball to try to play in Haaland. Now it's immediately whoever's on the ball, it's played in behind opposition, and Haaland goes. So as I said, the team's just set up solely for him. It seems he's obviously benefiting from that, but the quality that they've got around him, they know full well, and Pep Guardiola knows full well. Anyone watching City over the last few years know full well that you can find him sometimes in the most awkward positions, and he makes something of it. It's frightening watching him for Norway as well, John. What he's done with Norway and dominating Italy in that group, and the amount of goals that they scored. You know, obviously going into the international window, I think it's one win more or less gets them there now, because they'll have to lose 20-0 or something against Italy for them not to qualify. So for him to be at a World Cup, I think that's special as well, that he wants to test himself on that real elite stage as well. It's been phenomenal watching him, John. That's the only way that you can describe it. Watching him over the last 4 or 5 years, his goal records. Dave's a goal scorer as well, and a very good goal scorer at that, Dave. You know, and watching him, you probably analyse him at times and see his movement and see what he's doing to try to get himself space. And a lot of the time, Dave, watching him, it doesn't seem to me like it's, you know, anything other than just drive. I remember even speaking to Gary Lineker about it a few years ago when I was working with the BBC, and what he said to me was every single time there was players getting in wide positions or in certain positions, I just made sure I was between the middle of the goals. Every single time I'd run to the goal, even on like corners, a corner would come in, I wouldn't even follow the ball, I'd just run to the goal, knowing full well that if anyone flicked it on and got it into a position, I'd be just be in a position for a tap-in. And I think it's very much as basic as that with Haaland at times, where he's desperate to score, obviously, but to get between the middle of the goals is a thing for him, because he knows he's going to get himself in a position of most importance.
David?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I love everything about him because, you know, he's mad keen on this particular diet. You can tell he's absolutely devoted. You know, there's people, I think he has raw milk or this, that, or the other, whatever it is. You can tell he eats, breathes, sleeps goals. And I think the other night he could have scored another one. He tried a little dink when maybe, you know, he could have maybe slotted it low. But we discussed at the start of the season, John, about top goal scorer, and I was unequivocal before ball had been kicked. It would be Erling Haaland. And, you know, you can't keep a good man down, someone that is so accomplished in sort of every and physically almost unstoppable. So, you know, they're looking for him because he's on the last man. He's absolutely rapid. I don't know who's going to catch him. Maybe Van der Ven. In terms of Premier League defenders, there aren't many that are going to catch him when he's away. And there's nothing worse, Kev will tell you, as a defender, running back towards your own goal, chasing someone, and you're not going to catch him unless he has a poor touch or he makes a wrong decision. And very rarely does Erling do that. So, yeah, very difficult for everyone else. But he's only going to score more, and he's missed a lot of chances as well. He could have easily probably had another, I dread to think, probably could have had another, nearly 10 more goals with some of the chances that he's missed. And inside the box, outside the box, yeah, and they're playing to his strengths. And you know, coping without no De Bruyne, as Kev mentioned. Like, obviously, if you had De Bruyne behind him, it's a bit like Mo Salah saying, well, we're going to miss Trent Alexander-Arnold, or we're not as strong as last season. You look at Man City, a couple of players that have gone, you'd say, well, you know, if you're a striker, they're the sort of players that you want playing behind you, because they're going to find you. And he's still got this volume of goals. So, yeah, he's going to give City a real chance to be champions of Europe and the league, that's for sure.
Okay.
Dave, you know, as a goal scorer, just a quick one, Dave, you don't think it's amazing, Dave, that going back to the treble winning year, that people actually question City as a team, saying that they're taking away something from the team because he's scoring that amount of goals. As a goal scorer, that was amazing to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's so hard, as you know, putting the ball in the back of the net. You get someone who can score, doesn't faze him. You keep feeding him. You know, there's only going to be one outcome. I mean, you looked at the goal today. I don't know if you saw Brian Mbeumo's header.
But I'm watching the game. I missed the goal.
Yeah, well,
your best friend, David. Your best friend.
Exactly. I mean, it was a sort of brilliant ball in, like Kev would know. It's all in the delivery, hung up, and Brian Mbeumo's at the back post, and it looks a simple header, but, you know, he's between the posts. It's a good header, but he's between the posts. And it's just come back to something Kev said earlier about maybe the goalkeeping. You know, Vicario, to me, doesn't quite get across his goal enough to get close to the near post, and it kind of goes in pretty softly. Now, if goalkeepers are maybe not quite what they were, it means it's very good for Erling Haaland, because he's going to score even more goals.
Got to take a break here. David Connolly and Kevin Kilbane on our Saturday panel speaking about football, and it is still Tottenham Hotspur 0, Manchester United 1 in the Premier League in North London. They're well into the second half. They're now 69 minutes in the watch. And in the rugby, Ireland 22, Japan 10. More chat with David and Kevin on football after the news here on Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk.
This weekend on News Talk, together with Gas Networks Ireland, we're moving Ireland's energy. Learn about Gas Networks Ireland's pathway to a net zero carbon network and enter for your chance to win a €1,000 prepaid credit card at newstalk.com/energy.
Heineken bringing you in-depth analysis this Saturday. You could win a UEFA Champions League trip for two just by grabbing a pint of Heineken in 100 pubs nationwide. Visit Heineken Ireland's Instagram to find your nearest participating pub. Over 18s only. Drink responsibly. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
The search for the right mortgage isn't easy, but it's always better with PTSB. So whether you're buying, building, or moving, you'll get a team of your own to help you find the right rate. With dedicated options for energy-efficient homes and an online portal to track every stage of your application, start your mortgage search with PTSB. Apply online today. PTSB. Altogether more human. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Security and insurance is required. Permanent TSB PLC trading as PTSB is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At Centra, we've got amazing Santa savers from now until the big man arrives. Like Cadbury Roses and Heroes cartons better than half price, €3.25 each. Dada wine ranges €8 each. And selected clean cut meals, €5 each. Stock up with Centra. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
What is Vodafone SIM only? Well, it's the same great Vodafone reliability with unlimited calls, texts and data on the same great Vodafone network for just €25 a month. Perfect when you don't need us to do the phone part. Vodafone. Together we can.
New customers and those switching to our 24-month €25 SIM-only plan. Each April, the price of your plan will increase by €2.50 per month. Full terms see vodafone.ie/terms.
Investing in Elstone's Venture Fund 2, you're not just investing in Ireland's first All-Ireland Venture Fund, you're investing in Ireland, in tomorrow's entrepreneurs and the potential for strong returns. Build a diversified portfolio across the best Irish startups. Get up to 30% EIIS tax relief so it costs you less to invest. Qualifying investors can be part of something bigger. Back Irish companies, create jobs and strengthen the domestic economy. Visit elkstonepartners.com to learn more. This is a marketing communication intended for professional and qualifying investors only. It is not suitable for retail investors. The value of your investment may go down as well as up. Elkstone Private Advisors Limited, trading as Elkstone, Elkstone Wealth, Elkstone Private and Elkstone Ventures, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
If you smell gas at home or on the street, don't ignore it. Open windows and doors. Don't smoke, vape, or use a naked flame. Don't unplug or switch anything electrical on or off. Turn off the gas at the meter. Then, no matter who your gas supplier is, call Gas Networks Ireland on 1800 20 50 50. Visit gasnetworks.ie to screenshot the safety steps, save them to your device and share with friends and family.
The Black Friday sale is now on at Harvey Norman. Get Black Friday discounts today across our huge range of sofas, dining furniture and homewares. The season for extra guests is here, and we have you covered. Shop sofa beds from only $299, extending oak dining tables from just $749. Savings across dining chairs with prices starting from as low as €59. Plus, get 50% off all Christmas trees and decorations. Don't wait, now's the time to buy. The Harvey Norman Black Friday sale, now on.
Over 10,000 Irish businesses use the All-Go MasterCard to reward their staff. Do they know something you don't? They know that the All-Go gift card is tax-free and it can be used anywhere that accepts MasterCard. They can order a physical or a digital card for emailing to staff, and they know All-Go is a guaranteed Irish company. Get in the know. Ask All-Go. Order now on allgogiftcard.com. All-Go MasterCard is a business-only gift card issued by EML Money DAC and regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Heineken bringing you in-depth analysis this Saturday. You could win a UEFA Champions League trip for two just by grabbing a pint of Heineken in 100 pubs nationwide. Visit Heineken Ireland's Instagram to find your nearest participating pub. Over 18s only. Drink responsibly. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
On 106 to 108 FM, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and Smart Speaker. This is News Talk.
Good afternoon, I'm Jane McNamara. Gardaí are investigating after a woman's body was discovered in County Galway. It was found at a home in Spiddal yesterday evening. The scene has been preserved and a technical examination is due to be carried out. A White House official says Hungary won't be punished for purchasing Russian energy for another year. Buyers from Moscow's two biggest oil companies had been threatened with secondary sanctions from the US as part of President Donald Trump's attempts to end the war in Ukraine. These appear to have stalled after a planned summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Budapest was cancelled. While meeting the US President, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was critical of Europe's approach.
So the only pro-peace government is the United States government and the small Hungary in Europe anyway. All the other governments prefer to continue the war because many of them think that Ukraine can win on the front line, which is a misunderstanding of the situation.
Family Carers Ireland is holding its first National Carers Council meeting in Dublin today. The new council gives carers a national voice on issues like respite, home support and payments. Among those in attendance is Joanne Powell, who cared for her daughter Siobhan for more than 36 years. The president of the National Carers Council says her daughter was born with a rare condition and needed full-time care.
She was the only one in the world that had that specific thing. She had a ring chromosome 8, which is very rare in itself. The disability would be different for everybody, but Siobhan had no language. She couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't change herself. You had to feed her, you had to do everything for her basically.
The average person is spending up to €5,000 more a year on food and electricity than 5 years ago. That's according to a consumer affairs expert. It comes as new research by HelloFresh found 65% of people are cutting back on non-essential spending. Conor Pope, consumer affairs correspondent with the Irish Times, says people are spending more than ever.
If they were spending €200 a week every week in 2020, it would have cost them around €10,000 over the course of a full year. That exact same shop today costs around €13,500. So people have to find an additional $3.5 grand just to be in exactly the same financial position now. And electricity now, or energy, is costing Irish consumers around €1,200 more a year.
That's it for now. More in an hour.
Are you finalising your festive favours? Contemplating your Chriskindle contribution? The National Lottery have you sorted with some instant excitement for this gifting season. It's the Christmas Scratch Card range. There's festive riches, Christmas countdown, and merry money, otherwise known as the Christmas Trilogy. With over €7 million in prizes to be won instantly, this year's perfect gift might just be a Christmas scratch card. The National Lottery. It could be you. Gift responsibly.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Forget the frost. It's time to warm up your winter with Ryanair's low-fare flights to Lanzarote, Gran Canaria or Tenerife.
Dry for the day with some spells of sunshine this afternoon. However, cloud will increase through the day with rain and drizzle moving in from the west this evening. Highest temperatures 12 to 14 degrees. Now you're up to date on Newstalk.
Off the ball. This is Newstalk.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. It's Ireland 22, Japan 10 in the rugby, approaching the hour mark at the Aviva Stadium. And it is still Tottenham Hotspur 0, Manchester United 1 in the Premier League. If United win, they're second in the table temporarily. We're now continuing our chat on the Saturday panel on football with ex-Republic of Ireland internationals Kevin Kilbane and David Connolly. Kevin is in Canada, David's in London. It's an international theme today, folks. Kevin, Arsenal. The team I love, are they better defensively than you've ever seen them of late? I mean, when you're looking at the Mourinho team of 2004-05, they conceded just, 15 goals for the season. Arsenal have only conceded 3. You played against that Mourinho team. How do Arsenal compare?
They're incredible defensively to watch. They're not incredible to watch. So that's probably you can take that term as you want to. They haven't been great to watch across the course of the season. Maybe even the last 18 months, I would say probably. But it's been a slow build. And Mikel Arteta played with Mikel at Everton. Probably has recognised that is the way that they had to go to try to compete, to try and be better defensively, stop side scoring against them. But it's definitely the best defensive Arsenal side that I've seen. And I'm going back to, we're going back to George Graham days here, John, aren't we? The old Arsenal always win. What was the song? Famous song. We always win 1-0.
Boring Arsenal.
Yeah, that one as well.
Or 1-0 to the Arsenal. That's the other one.
But it's a bit like, it is a bit like that. Watching them, they're so good. I saw that one. I think the Premier League tweeted it out. Was it the only shot they conceded through October? Was it the cross or something like that? It was. I think it was October. It was incredible. It wasn't even a shot that they conceded. The only shot on target through October. So the structure of the side is set up to stop. Yeah, set pieces. They're incredible. And set pieces, I know there's a lot being made around it. Dave, again, has been so much part of a coaching setup. It's always been a big part of my game growing up. When I started at Preston, set piece might give you the edge in a game, and Arsenal have the edge in a big way over set pieces. The best team in the Premier League by far at set pieces in every aspect. And if you stop side scoring against you, more often than not, you're going to win a game. And that's exactly what Arteta's done in terms of getting the results from that side. Did you feel the intensity of him as a player? Because he's quite meticulous as a manager. Obviously, you have to be at that level. Yeah, but again, I think, again, the coaching and on-field methods now that are used, it's probably even more so because you have the video analysis as well to use, because you have the data to use, and because you can actually piece it all together visually. A player can see it before they're going out. I think they're in a much better position to coach now, coaches, in terms of how they're going to get the best out of the players. But it definitely, I mean, honestly, John, when I was a young kid coming into the game at Preston, we had John Beck as a manager. And I was only like 16 to 18. I never played first team football under him, really. But John Beck was so meticulous on set pieces. Yeah, everybody knows about his style of play and how he coached his players and how he coached. So from an early age, and obviously Sam Allardyce was my youth team manager as well. So I had a first team manager and a youth team manager that was so big on set pieces that were constantly talking about the importance of how they are going to get the best out of you individually as a team. Clean sheets was always drummed into defenders. Yes, the game has changed in terms of how, as I said before, in terms of tactical awareness, scoring goals is the utmost importance now, certainly for Premier League sides. So it is a bit of a throwback with what Arsenal are doing, but that has always, as I said, been a big part. Mick was big on them. every international Trap. I mean, Trapattoni, like, he used to come on the training field with us. I've told this story many a time, and he would tell you how to man mark from corners. You know, I know that we've been on and I've been on to Off the Ball talking about Jaime Hallgrimsson and how he sets up the side and how he sets up zonally from set pieces. I feel as though we haven't looked great, I don't think, defending set pieces. But Trapattoni was unbelievable in what he used to do with us, John. And you know, he was getting on in age, but he'd be coming right up against you in training. Look, I was obviously a bigger guy, over 6 feet tall, and Trap would have hold of me and stopping me running, telling me how to defend from set pieces, how to get the advantage when the ball was in flight and things like this. The old, essentially, if you want of a better phrase, the Italian way of stopping teams scoring against you. And Arsenal have that. If you watch how they defend and how they go up against players and stop runners and block runners and things like this, it's great to watch what they're doing, certainly from set pieces, yeah.
Did you see the elite manager in Arteta as a teammate?
I think, yes. In answer to that question immediately, yes. He was very intense, Mikel. Excellent player, top-class player, but very, very intense. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's. Look, I've seen players who you least expect to go into coaching, and some that you expect to don't necessarily go into coaching. So it's a hard one to judge as a player. But if you're asking me, did I see certainly a player that liked to develop? He was a definite talker, definite player that liked to give information to the manager and ask information of the manager. So yeah, I think he was definitely a player that, if you're looking at certain players or caliber of players who I would have played with across my career, he would have been one where you would think it would be going into coaching and be a success, yeah.
Would you have thought the same of the Duffer, Kevin?
What, an answer straight question? No, I would say.
Okay.
Dave and I would know Duffer, who just used to spend 23 hours a day in bed, and the 2 hours that he'd get up was just be for training. Yeah. But towards the end of Damien's career, actually, certainly when he was at Fulham, Damien became such a good pro, I think, certainly for going back to his Chelsea days, and how he used to look after his body and how he would get the best out of himself. Definitely Fulham was the one, I think, for him, if I remember Damien when we were in the squad together. And Damien was such a developed from, I wouldn't want to say not a great pro, but he certainly wasn't a player that looked after himself the way that he should have looked after himself in his early days when he was at Blackburn and when he first went to Chelsea. And across the course of his career, Damien was someone that really focused on how he's going to get longevity out of his career, how he's going to get the best out of himself. And Damien was always intense. Damien was great fun, great guy, unbelievable guy, very, very funny, very dry wit. But he was certainly a player that wasn't afraid to speak his mind. He would say as he saw it immediately, had a quick quirk when things were happening around him. And I think certainly as he got older, as we all do, you know, when you're younger, Dave and I will both remember Damien coming into the squad, and we were all probably in that bracket to an extent of being a bit shy, not wanting to speak up. And when I first got in, and I know it was the same time as you, Dave, my heroes, Townsend, Aldridge, Cascarino, Quinn, Keane, Staunton, all these guys were around me, guys that I was just totally in awe of growing up. And you obviously are a little bit quieter, and as you develop in your career and you start to find your voice a bit more, and I think that was the same with Damien. Damien absolutely, across the course of his career towards the end, and at Fulham especially, learned how to become a voice in a changing room. I wouldn't say overly loud, never was. David would know that. He was never overly loud, Duffer, but he's certainly a player that helped, or certainly that developed his knowledge of the game as he went on in his career, yeah.
David, I see Mrs. Tell score for Spurs 1-1 now.
Yeah, good goal.
Yeah, very good goal. And they look kind of, although United look like they might be on the attack again. But yeah, I guess just to echo what Kev said, I think you would say maybe Duffer was still young, quite, I wouldn't say immature, but he was just young, you know, and you get by doing what you'd always done, and you know, some of us might be more in the gym early on. We were trying to, maybe, I can talk for myself here, but you're trying to keep on the coattails of these great players, you know, because they were so good, and you want to be amongst them, and some of them are just naturally brilliant, and then some, the rest of us have to work really, really hard to kind of keep up, but there's no doubt probably working under, Roy Hodgson and different managers, that probably helps as well. And as you get a bit older, you've got to look after yourself as well. But Duffer was always like that. I remember once, I think he was driving around Duffer with a number plate from Halfords, and it wasn't even registered. He just went in there, I think, and bought Duff 9 and put it on his car.
No, Duff 11 it was, yeah.
Duff 11, and he was just like a young kid off the street, but he was obviously just an incredible football player. But that was funny. I think the police pulled him over and he's like, well, I picked it up at Halfords. Is that not enough? It's not like, no. But I'm sure we'll see him again. But in terms of those that were going to go into coaching or whatever, Damien was very focused and this, that, and the other, and probably less inclined. I remember I would be writing down the sessions we did, and even when I wasn't in Ireland squads with Trapattoni picked me for the first one, but I was I had hip surgery, I was injured a lot. I remember I'd talk to say Paul McShane, and he'd tell me. I remember he told me once Trapattoni would have a five-a-side, and if you gave away 3 corners, there would be a penalty against you. So you'd have a proper penalty. And that was to get in the minds of the lads, of the players, not to give cheap corners away, because he knew the importance of whoever was the upcoming opponent might be good at set pieces and all that. So it's not rocket science, something simple, gets in your head, like you say, and the value of set pieces is, I don't think it's ever going to change. It might come in and out of fashion, in and out of, in and out of vogue or whatever, but long throws, corners, always been important.
What about Arsenal, David, as to the point we just raised there? Do they excite you?
Well, I think you'd have to say in Mikel's defence, they have got a lot of exciting players. So as scripted as they may appear at times, like in how they play and the long throws or the corners or, there's quite a lot of coaching from the sideline. I mean, I played with players who, Kevin will tell you, they couldn't probably wait to get on the other wing to get away from the manager screaming in their ear hole. I mean, I remember, I played with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. He came through at Southampton, and he would tell me he couldn't wait to get on the other side of the pitch because, and that is Mikel. He's there screaming in the ear of everyone that's down that, and they're the players that get 90% of the info, I would say. So they're very prescribed, right? And he's obviously very much a coach in that regard. But you have to say they do have a more than a smattering of really talented individuals that can go and win a game. And it looks like they've kind of nearly got the perfect balance, although I'm sure he would love to have a 9 like an Erling Haaland that he doesn't quite have. But other than that, I mean, they look like they're very, very close to having everything again.
Still 1-1 Tottenham, Manchester United approaching full-time in North London. You touched upon Giovanni Trapattoni there, Kevin. Heimer Hallgrimsson, so what? We have Portugal in Dublin next Thursday and then Hungary on Sunday. Could be his final 2 games in charge. Has he got the best out of these players, as limited as some people might think they are compared to other great World Cup qualifying campaigns and all these World Cups we had in Euros? Okay, you can talk about the players all you want, but has he got the best out of them?
Yeah. No, I don't think he has. Simple answer to that one, John. I don't think he has. And I'm going back to, look, I think there's been a lot of big statements being made about us. We will go to the World Cup. We will be at the World Cup next year. And how flat it was in that Hungary game first off the bat. And that happens. We've all been there with that. And I know that. But I think to play the way that we've played against Armenia over the 2 games, and I know that Armenia away was a disaster. We know that it was. But to set up with a mindset of we're going to play a little bit more negatively, conservatively against Armenia coming into Dublin without playing with some sort of, to give them the intimidation factor.
We just have a little bit of a pause there on Kevin's line. We are connecting to Canada, but just looking at on Thursday against Portugal, David, I mean, we have to pull something out of the thin air almost. We're going to play defensive, obviously. I'm just looking through the squad here, David. Lowell, Brown, Smallbone, Brady, O'Dada and Schmodox and Doherty are all out. Malumbi and Manning are suspended. So it's a difficult one for us to try and conjure something against world-class players. But have you any hope? We always have hope, I suppose.
Well, it's going to look. We have to be realistic as well, and you know it's going to be very, very, very difficult, almost impossible. I think Roberto Martinez is.
Richarlison has scored 2-1 to Tottenham. Sorry, David.
Yeah, Kev told you about a minute ago, John, but you might have missed that. He's in Canada. He saw it quicker than you. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. Tottenham 2-1 up. I debate, is he onside, Kevin? I
don't know. It looked close. It's close here. It's close, I think, yeah.
It's another header, though. It's another
set piece, lads. Set piece, lads.
Yeah, it came from a...
They've come out the second ball.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I'm trying to watch it myself here, John. That's it. I've not got my glasses on.
Yeah, it's a ball clear to the edge of the box and bent back in, and it's tight if he's offside. But do you know what? I think maybe might be Luke Shaw's just probably playing him. I can't quite see, just playing him onside.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. Yeah.
I reckon that's going to count.
Okay. So yeah.
Wow. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I think it's going to be very difficult, John. So no matter how, you have to be a realist, and the team he's got to scramble and pull together. And I think Roberto Martinez is saying all the right things about the crowd. It's going to be intimidating, but it won't be if we sit off, which I imagine we will do. They'll have the ball. They'll have the ball 90% or 80% of the time, and it feels like it's just a matter of time, which, as we know, often happens against the good teams, right? That's how we. But it's not going to be. It's not going to be the intimidating atmosphere. I don't think that Roberto Martinez is thinking, because he'll quieten the crowd because they're going to have the ball an awful lot, and it's going to be a difficult night. Doesn't mean the impossible can't happen, but with all the players we've got missing, yeah, it's an opportunity for others. But you are going up against a team, obviously, that are very, very good. Now, names don't win you games, and you have to forget who you're playing against and just go out. But you obviously, these are all top players. So it's going to be very difficult.
So the question I asked, we just lost connection for a little bit. Kevin, you don't feel he's got the best out of the players over the campaign. Why do you not feel that way?
Well, I feel as though that I don't think he's got the best out of him in the setup. And again, go back to that Armenia game at home. Armenia at home for us, I think, was the opportunity to put what's gone before us and go again. I was more worried. Even though we beat Armenia at home, I was more upset really after that game with the setup. And I think you'd think, well, results, we've got a result, it keeps us in it. But if you look at the Hungary game, we were blessed against Hungary, John. Like, the sending off gifted us. Armenia gifted us. The sending off against Armenia gifted us at home as well. So we've been blessed in this group. Something might be going for us the miracle may happen because of that. I can't see it, but it may happen. Portugal away was the performance that we all expected. I think we all expected to, grind out and try to get a result as best way we can. But I think I'm just going back overall. I think that I was actually very confident, not very confident mean thing, but I was confident coming into the group thinking, I think we can actually get the better of Hungary here. We're not going to topple Portugal, but I think we've got a chance of snatching that second spot. Not easy, but I think we had a chance with what he was saying and how we were set up. And then all of a sudden, the big talks and the big statement going into that Hungary game, it didn't look to me like the players were ready for that type of atmosphere, that were prepared to play with a crowd that was so expectant going into the game. It looked like they were overawed by it all overall. Jaime Helgensson's statements not long after he took the job, saying that he didn't realise how big this job was. That sort of thing to me was just. I mean, you shouldn't be in the job if you're not expecting it to be such a huge job. Everybody knows a few phone calls will tell you it's the biggest job in Irish sport, being the Irish manager. Anyone knows that. So for him to be totally unprepared for that said to me quite a lot, actually. I saw his Jamaica team before he got the job. I saw quite a bit of them, and I knew how it was going to play. I knew how he was going to play it out. I knew the style of football that he was going to play. Maybe I was thinking as well that was kind of what we needed. We had better players, I think, overall than Jamaica that could have got us something. But I just think, John, overall, I don't think he has. And I think we had the structure of a decent side. Stephen Kenny constantly spoke about the development and what he did, rightly or wrongly.
2-2, 2-2 now.
There you go. I missed that one. John. I was talking too much. I couldn't get ahead of you there. But No, what I'm saying there, John, is like I think that there was so much that Stephen Kenny had spoken about in terms of giving these players the development, giving them the chance to go on and get better in their career, and the players haven't kicked on. And I feel as though maybe the memories of those heavy defeats and bad nights under Kenny maybe has taken them forward. They've got nothing really to get hold of, that they've had a big night in Dublin, or they've had big results in Dublin, or they've had a great campaign that they can take forward. They've not had that, and Hallgrimsson ultimately has not been the guy that's got the best out of these players, that's going to take them forward.
Yeah, maybe the feeling was when they appointed him that he'd do the job he did with Iceland when he brought them up to the World Cup in 2018, but it hasn't worked out, obviously.
Well, he took Jamaica to Copa America as well.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. I actually saw his team over here in Canada play against Canada in Toronto, and they put Canada actually into the playoffs and qualified automatically for Copa America. And it was actually more Canada being terrible on the day that actually got them to Copa America. Look, you've still got to do the job and get there, so I'm not taking anything away from him in that aspect. But the overall, the style that we've played, the message that he's been given, or the message he's been given first off, has been positive. And I was kind of sucked in a little bit with that, John. The players are all playing at a very, very good level. No, I know we're not talking about top-end Premier League, but we've got Premier League and good Championship players that should be competing better, I feel, against Armenia and Hungary. Absolutely should be competing better.
Is there a confidence issue with the players in your view, David?
Well, a lack of confidence.
Yes, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's I mean, look, the last result obviously will give them a little bit of hope, but you know, performance-wise, you wouldn't say there's a body of work there that bodes well for the future. You know, when he got the job, I guess, without going back over old ground, we have discussed this. Like he made some big calls, left a lot of experience out at times, and maybe was thinking of going one particular way, and you know, as obviously had to sort of row back on that, and then bring those lads back into the team, and obviously they've done pretty well for him, you would say, by and large. But it's a big job. It's a job that I think you need to know. You need to know the levels. You need to know the players intimately. You haven't got time to waste because it was only a 6-game deal, really, and kind of over after 2 or 3. So there was absolutely no time to waste, and it's been a really disappointing. You can kind of think of maybe one half, 145 or 190, maybe that's been decent out of it. But apart from that, it's been very, very difficult. Flip-flop between different shapes, 3 at the back, 4 at the back. You know, trying to get in full-backs or wing-backs that you would say probably aren't necessarily wing-backs and full. I mean, Kev will know he's played that role, both roles. You know, he'd be able to tell you more than me. It's quite difficult. Forsaking quality on the ball, I think at times he's done that when, you know, the likes of, by the time Ryan Manning got in the team, he showed what a good ball player he was, because you need lots of ingredients in a team, but you also need people who are pretty calm in possession at the back. And you know, he's probably stumbled his way through the right team. As it is now, he probably doesn't have that much of a choice to make in terms of his starting team, because he's down to the bare bones, and it's going to be a tough task. I mean, by the time we kick off, we will know probably one way or the other, won't we? And if it's bad news by the time we kick off, then that's going to be a very, very tough 90 minutes for the players. And I would say this, and I don't think this has changed much when Kevin and I were in Ireland squads. To me, those lads look like good, honest pros. Like they always turn up. They sweat. They're always trying very hard, and they've got quality. Maybe not, as Gibbon says, where you might have been 10, 20 years ago, but I do think you could have got more out of this team and the setup and the way that we've played.
Yeah, 2-2 was finished between Tottenham and Manchester United. A bit of a crazy game, and what can you say? We'll reflect on that a bit later on. But Kevin, when you're looking at, say, I know like Ryan Manning, for example, is suspended on Thursday, and Robbie Brady's injured, but like Kevin O'Toole has come in. He's been playing in the MLS. I mean, I wouldn't have known much about him, to be honest. Is the standard of the MLS good enough for an Irish squad?
Well, certain players, yes, I would absolutely say top-end players in the MLS. I think most would be quite familiar with the structure of MLS football, where you have your DPs that the clubs can pay what they want for them, and then there's a salary cap where everyone else has to fit into the salary cap. And there are some very good players. I think particularly the guys that come from South America, it's almost a platform or a showcase for the South American players to try to get into Europe. Everyone that does well, or anyone that's trying to do well, unless you're at the wrong end of your career like Messi or Thomas Muller or Son, who are over there now or over here now, those guys are at a different level. But the guys that's coming in, you want to try and get that move to Europe. Now, Kevin O'Toole has not shot the lights out at all. I've seen quite a bit of him playing at New York. Decent player, decent. You're asking me the question, is it good enough? I think you could have picked a very good League of Ireland left back, and it would have been on an absolute same level that you'd be looking at for Kevin O'Toole. And that's an honest evaluation of it. That he's a player that's probably doing well to be continuously playing in the MLS for New York City like he's playing now. And he's probably getting the best out of himself. So it was a bizarre inclusion, in my opinion, total bizarre, totally off the wall, out the blue. And I feel as though, I know he spoke about injuries and he doesn't have a lot of depth there. Outside Scales, Manning's struggling, I think, a little bit, isn't he? Robbie Brady, obviously injured. But I think Omar-Bamadeli's fit, isn't he, John? I think there's certain players that are actually fit that he could have picked and he could have played in that position, who are playing at a much better level. Championship level overall is better than the MLS. And people, and I've watched enough of it now. I've seen enough of the MLS, and I know Messi has been so good for the league over here. Thomas Muller, what he's doing at Vancouver Whitecaps right now, they're going to be one of the favourites now we're in the playoffs at the end of the season. Son is playing exceptionally well for LAFC. Even Andrew Moran, actually, one of our other lads. If I'm thinking of a player that's playing MLS football now, I'd be picking Andrew Moran, who's playing at LAFC. And I know he's in the squad, but I'd be thinking that, yes, he'd be the guy that he's well ahead at the level here than Kevin O'Toole. But we know a lot about Andrew Moran, so it's a different aspect, I suppose. But overall, in answer to that question that you said at the start, is an MLS player good enough? I would say yes, if you are excelling every week. And Kevin O'Toole is a decent player, but he's not top-end left-back within the league. He is not, absolutely not, no. And I'm talking that's within rosters, not as DPs.
We obviously have to respect that Hamer's got a job and he could pull it out of the fire with 2 unexpected results in the next week. But what would you like to see the future of Irish football? I mean, is there a white knight really, Kevin, or are the structural issues too great? But is there somebody who could come in here and do something with us? Obviously, we got the Euros in Dublin in a couple of years, and we should be there. So, like Lee Carsley very well, like Roy Keane, Damien Duff, Stephen Bradley. The conversation will continue to roll on because it is, as you say, the biggest job in the country.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, my relationship with Lee probably would override things, and I'd be obviously in favour of him taking the job. But there's a number of reasons why I would always push for us to go for somebody like Lee, and it's his career in coaching has taken him down many different paths. He's got such an experience of youth development. He's got an experience of even working with senior pros, with top-class players. He knows how to build structures within certain organisations, whether that's been at Brentford or Birmingham, Coventry, and other places. Within the Premier League, when he had a job at the Premier League as well, aside of working for the FA. So he's got so much experience of, yes, the development, but also how to build something that I feel could be invaluable to the FAI. The FAI, I stated it recently, I think, as well, John. I think they missed a trick by not really going all out to get him last time. I feel as though now we've lost almost another couple of years by not getting somebody like him in, and he's Irish and if you're making him an offer that he can't refuse, then he's got to take the job, hasn't he? I understand there's financial restrictions on the FAI, I know that. But any of those names that you mention, whether it would be Roy or Damien, Robbie, Stephen Bradley, I think I'd feel as though that they're way more in tune with Irish football than Jaime Helgrimsson is when he took the job. And I know it was maybe a short-term fix. Let's just try and get to a major tournament and let's get the job done. But we needed a bit more foresight than that, I think. We needed someone that was in tune with the setup, was in tune with the whole system and how our structure worked. That obviously we've got so many that have come up through an English system as well, or so many of our young kids that go over to England as well, that you're going to have to watch both sides of the water to get the best out of our group. Not just, I feel, sitting on Y-Scout as well. I heard Vinnie Perth talking about it in the week, talking about you've got to go and see the players, you've got to go and meet them, you've got to get that personal feeling for them. And it seems to take a long time before he even thought that was necessary. Now, I understand certain coaches have got their own structures and how they do things, but to a player, 99% of players that I've all played with, when the international manager is there, when he's come to watch you, it gives you a perk up, and you when he comes to speak to you after the game in the players' lounge, or sees you for 5 minutes or whatever after the game, it means something to you as a player that your international coach has bothered to go and see you play. So I mean, with us, even with Trapattoni, we know Trapattoni was watching games, but he had Marco Tardelli that was continuously going around watching players, and players knew that Tardelli was at the game, and Liam Brady obviously before that during his early stages. So there's a lot of bizarre things around it anyway, but I just feel as though if you're asking me who I think Lee would be the ideal candidate, and I feel as though the FAI should go and just offer him the job. He was never offered the job. People think he was never offered the job. So go and offer him the job, and offer him something in place where he can feel he can look at going forward, where it's a 4-year plan or whatever it will be. Look, we all know the position that we are. We know it might not work. We know we might not get to a major tournament. We know that. We know where we are. But I feel as though that structures could be put in place that's going to help us develop over a 10 or a 15 or a 20-year period, rather than just an 18-month period. Or that short-term thinking now cannot be the case. We have to look beyond that.
I had Martin O'Neill in here about a month ago before he went to Celtic, David Connolly. I don't think any of us expected that. But I asked him, like, is it still an attractive job? And he said, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Is it still an attractive job, David?
Yeah, obviously. I just wonder. Obviously, getting the right person is so important. I mean, I think maybe Lee Carsey might have been one result away from maybe getting the England job. I don't know. So. And he might still be not too far off getting the England job. When you're the under-21 manager of England, the history tells you the next job is the main one. So I think we've got a lot on our hands to try and get, for example, extricate Lee out of England. It might happen, I don't know, and there might come a point where Lee wants to be the main man. I hope so, but I think we got a lot to do. So, you know, who that next man might be. But I mean, you go back to John. I think when Heimer first got the job, one of the first things I did was I wouldn't say criticise him or critique him, but I couldn't believe that he wasn't going to games, because I've worked in football clubs, I've worked in scouting, and you know, no matter what, you have to go and see the players live. As Kevin says, you have to go and talk to them, speak to them. There's things you're going to miss. You can't pick it out of just watching it on a TV screen. And I said that 2 years ago. Nothing's changed, and it's not to be proven right, but we need someone like a Bielsa who lives, breathes, talks about it in front of a screen, but also goes to watch any game that's on, all hours of the day, every day. I mean, that's what it takes. You know, especially when we don't have the resources. Like, the resources are quite limited, so we need someone who can get more out of the resources that we have. I personally don't think you can have someone who's been in a studio as a pundit for 5 seasons or 4 years or 5 years. I think that's I think you're asking too much. So we need someone. I mean, Duffer hasn't been out of the game long, and he was a great success. You know, it could be. There's lots of different candidates out there. I do worry about who would be actually selecting the right candidate and that process. So, but yeah, it's difficult, but obviously it's a great job to go and have, to be an international manager, and certainly of Ireland. And we do have resources, but maybe we just need someone who, I think we can get more out of the resources that we got.
Just to finish, Kevin Kilbane, I've really enjoyed the chat with yourself and David Connolly. Is Canada buzzed for the World Cup? Is it going to be a really good World Cup over there? I mean, the heat is probably going to be an issue, maybe in the USA, but is Canada set for it?
Well, we get the heat here as well across the summer. It won't be as bad as down south, but it will be. Yeah, everyone's set for it. Yeah, ticket pricing aside, John, we'll have that debate some other day. Ticket pricing is a joke. It's a disgrace what they've done here. You know, I think the real football fans feel exploited with ticket prices and how it's gone. They've got no chance of even buying them, even if they were in a position to buy them, they couldn't afford them. So that aside, I think there is a good feeling looking into the next window now. Ecuador and who's the other game they've got this week? I should know that, but they're on a good footing. The team itself, John, are playing really well. Jesse Marsh has really got a tune out of the side. They've got players playing Champions League football. You know, I look on this Canadian side with total envy in comparison to our side now that Canada has risen from such a low position, and we've just crossed paths along the way that, you know, Canada's now a top 30 side in the world, playing a brilliant brand of football that you really can get on board with,
Kevin Kilbane and David Connolly, great to talk to you, lads. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. From Canada and London, goodbye.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, that was a really good, enjoyable Saturday panel conversation. We've got a result from the rugby full-time at the Aviva Stadium. Ireland have beaten Japan. Reporting, Susanna Mullen.
Hey John, full-time here, and it's a final score of Ireland 41, Japan 10. Arguably the scoreline doesn't fully reflect what we just saw here in the Aviva Stadium. Bit of a chaotic game from start to finish. Ireland had a lot of chances, a lot of